Oh, good, an episode where we haven't dropped and or shaken the baby yet. No, we're just hitting the child now. Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Crossin Streams. As always, I am your host, the real Geno Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about Season 1 of The Mandalorian Chapter 8. This is the season finale. It's called Redemption. When we last left off, our heroes were pinned down by Moff Gideon and his troops. The baby had been taken, Queel had been killed, and nothing seemed like it was going to work out for our heroes. I didn't want to spoil much about this episode, but I do have some things I needed to talk about, and they are spoilers. So I will say this, if you don't want to know anything about the episode, I like the episode, but I have some issues with it. That being said, there's also some cool, exciting stuff I'm happy about too. All in all, it is a pretty good episode, but there was a couple things that happened that I didn't. It's stuff I don't like in any show, and then there was something they did that I was afraid they were going to do, and anyway, we'll talk about that. All in all, it's a pretty solid episode, though I do feel that some things were forced. The first thing that I really liked is that we got exactly what we were hoping for when it comes to IG-11. He was none too happy in his new duties that the baby had been taken, and he just goes and lays waste to the two speeder bike troopers that took the baby, and he takes the baby back. So that was great. The only problem is, something I can't stand is he brought the baby where the baby shouldn't be. You would think he would take the baby and protect the baby, but no, he takes it right into the middle of where our heroes are. I mean, yes, things do work out, but he takes the baby in the middle of a firefight when he should have been protecting the child away from said firefight. This episode, we do learn a lot about our characters. We learn where Cara Dune comes from. We learn that the Mandalorian, we learn his real name. Even though technically it had been leaked a while back, but if you have the captioning on, you can see the spelling of it and everything. We learn that he is a foundling. We see a bit more of his flashback on how he was discovered and everything. We learn a little bit more about Greef Karga, which is Carl Weathers' character. So we learn a little bit about these characters, and in their desperation, they're able to get away, but it's not without losses. As much as I was happy to see IG-11 back, unfortunately, he didn't survive too long in this episode. That being said, I liked what they did with him because he kind of, I wouldn't say reinstilled hope in the Mandalorian about droids, but it made the Mandalorian feel close to a droid, and that was a bit of an issue for me. I mean, yeah, story-wise, I'll buy it because we're not given, we're only given half-hour or so episodes a week, but yeah, IG-11 does something for the Mandalorian that it's pretty big, but I felt like they made the Mandalorian all of a sudden feel too close to IG-11, where the whole rest of the time he didn't trust him. I guess he now trusted him. It just felt like it came on a little too fast. The trust of him came on a little too fast. The big thing that this episode did, and this is something I did not want to see in this show, in the episode where the Mandalorian and Cara Dune are helping the village, we see the Mandalorian take off his mask, and you just see him set it down so he can eat, but it's not around people. I was fine with that. It's kind of a Judge Dredd thing where, yeah, he can take the mask off, but you're not going to show us his face. This episode, and hopefully this is the only time they do it in the whole series, but there comes a point where the Mandalorian's mask has to come off. And while he didn't break his vow because he did not take it off around people, he was forced to take it off in front of IG-11 to save his own life. I mean, he wanted to die a warrior's death and not take it off, but IG-11 insisted that he take the mask off so he can heal him. And the Mandalorian saying, no, I can't do it. I can't take it off in front of a person. And IG-11's like, I'm not a person. So he takes it off. And even then, I wish they would have not shown his face. Take off the mask, sure. I was fine with that being part of the story. That's not what bothered me. It's the fact that they showed him. And yes, I mean, he looks like Pedro Pascal. You know, I mean, it's exactly Pedro Pascal under the mask, which, again, is cool, but I just didn't want him to show his face. That's not something I wanted in this show. So I was a little disappointed they did that. That being said, hopefully this is the only time they do it throughout the entire series. We do get a little bit more history about the Mandalorians. We get to see that now the child is now officially linked to Mando by way of the Mandalorian way. So that was kind of neat. I really did like that. Basically tells you that he has a goal now, and he has to... there's 2 ways he can be relieved of that goal. Other than that, the child is with him now. So I did like that. We get a little bit more of Giancarlo Esposito's character. We basically get to see that he's not a very nice guy. Moff Gideon, when the speeder bike troopers are talking at the first, they're talking about how people are just getting shot because he don't like things. So we get to see kind of how ruthless he is. And apparently, Moff Gideon has a bit of a past with the Mandalorians. It seems like Moff Gideon is probably going to be the big bad of the series because of some things that he may have done and some things that he may have taken. We'll just say that. I'll talk about that at the end. One thing we didn't get to know about is who was chasing the Mandalorian throughout the season, where we saw the feet of whoever that was tracking him. Nothing. We get nothing on that, so that's definitely being saved for the second season. Again, this is all in all, it was a solid episode. I am going to talk about the very end. So again, if you don't want to know like the big surprise end, definitely don't watch the rest of this review. But here's one of my pet peeves. The Mandalorian is able to, with the help of his new tool, I'll just say that, with the help of his new tool, he is able to take down Moff Gideon's TIE fighter. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that always bothers me. Check and make sure they're dead. Yes, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to see Moff Gideon gone. Don't get me wrong. I like the fact that he's going to be a villain throughout this series. But it's just a pet peeve of mine when heroes don't say check the cockpit and make sure they're gone. It's not like the TIE fighter was like a long ways away. They could have checked. It's not like they were in a hurry to leave after they took him on. If they were in a hurry to leave or whatever, that's one thing. If he crashed the TIE fighter way, way far away, that'd be another thing. But the way the TIE fighter goes down, there's no explosion or anything. It's like, check the cockpit. But this leads to the big reveal of the episode. And this was really cool for me. I really dug this. And it definitely has some implications for some other Star Wars stuff. Because Moff Gideon escapes the cockpit of his TIE fighter by using none other than the Darksaber. The Darksaber being, long story short, it's you could call it a Mandalorian lightsaber. It's got a black blade. I know there's a whole history behind it, and you can look that stuff up for yourself. But it's been shown in the Clone Wars and in Rebels. And the last we saw it, it was with the Mandalorian. Sabine Wren gave it to the new leader of the Mandalorians. Sabine used it for a time. Darth Maul had it for a time. So it was with the Mandalorians. But that would have been, I think, probably a little before A New Hope. When's the last time we saw it? So we've got a few years there. So how did Moff Gideon get it? That's, I'm going to guess it was during, him killing a lot of Mandalorians, which of course isn't going to go over too well with our hero in the future. And who knows, maybe the Mandalorian might end up with the Darksaber. You never know. That would be kind of cool. I always like seeing what new toys they could give this character. Of course, any new toy they give him makes him even cooler than Boba Fett, and even way cooler than Jango Fett. But yeah, that was the big reveal at the end. Seeing that Darksaber in a live-action Star Wars was kind of cool. So I was happy to see that. Again, all in all, solid episode. They did some things I didn't like, but it doesn't ruin the show for me. This is for me. It was a pretty strong season. Yeah, there were some things you go back and think about that you're like, that I wish they wouldn't have done that. That being said, I wish I would have liked to have connected to some of the other characters, especially like IG-11. He became important and then he was gone. I was kind of sad to see him go, but there's other characters we're going to get to see probably in the future. So yeah, it was a pretty solid season, and definitely made Disney Plus worth it for me. That's going to be all for this edition of Crossin Streams. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Geno YouTube channel, like this video. If you have anything to say about The Mandalorian, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Until next time, I'm your host, the Real Geno, Geno Reynolds, and this is the way.